righty, team, welcome. It is precisely 7 a.m. here in Brisbane, Australia, 8 a.m. in Sydney, and 5 p.m. in New York. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is going to be a lot of fun. This is a webinar that has exceeded our expectations so far as registrations. So far, we've had 552 people register, which is insane. So must be our stars, Paula, Kevin, and Jason. Wherever Jason is, he'll turn up in a moment. So before we get into the whole thing and introducing our stars of the show, I wanted to find out where you're from. So here's how we're going to operate today. This is a Q&A webinar. I've got 4 big questions for our 3 panelists. Wendy Miller is my co-host here, and she's going to help me moderate your questions. So if you go down the bottom, the toolbar, it says chat. Just hit that button, open up the chat, and we're going to communicate via the chat because you're all muted. So just pop in there where you're from. We're coming from Brisbane, Australia. We're coming from Allen, Texas. We're coming from Raleigh, North Carolina. Where are you from? Spain. Oh, cool. Look at that. San Mateo. Let's have a look. This is going mental here. Santa Cruz, Toronto, New Zealand. Wow, cool. New Zealand, Chicago, Kansas, Australia, Sue, Michigan, Carl from the Gold Coast. We've got Red Deer, Canada, Los Angeles, Maryland. Hopefully that Jason turns up from Maryland. We're going to hear from Guelph. Been to Guelph, Susan, as you know. Paris. Oh, we got them from everywhere here. Wagga Wagga. Got a good friend in Wagga Wagga, Pearl. Austin, Texas, Atlanta, GA, baby. Okay, got it. All right, Victor, got it. Okay, cool. Melbourne, Port Lincoln. Good to see you, Troy. Phoenix. We've got everywhere. That's pretty cool. Very cool. We are going to have a lot of fun. So, as we go through this process, we're going to meet our stars of the show soon, and wherever Jason is, he will turn up. You're going to ask them questions through the chat, through the same chat you've just been pinging there right now. But before we get into that, let's get into a little bit of background as to what and why we are here. So first of all, my name is Rob Nixon. Some of you may or may not know of me. I've been working in the accounting profession now for 28 years and coaching accounting firms all over the world. Worked in about 18 countries and really I've got products all over the place. But coaching is the passion. And here's some stats for you and we're going to get into some numbers with Paula, Kevin, and Jason in a moment, but some stats for you to get your teeth around. These are the averages, but based on what you're about to hear from Paula, Jason, and Kevin, the averages on implementing what you're about to hear. So whatever your starting mark is, our starting mark is about 1.5 million as far as size of firm. And the average profit increase, average revenue increase is 21% year one. Profit, average starting mark, $406,000 for the firms that we start coaching. You'll hear a great story from Paula later on, how she started much less than that, but she's much more than that these days. And the average increase is 98.4%. So typically double profit in year one. And then the working in hours, the hours actually worked in the business, 1,314 by the partners. And that's a year one reduction of about 20%. And it goes down, down, down over the years as well. So that's what we're going to be talking about. We're talking about growing your numbers, improve profitability, improve revenue, and reduce time. If you want some of that, just tap yes into the chat as we get warmed up here. Just punch yes into the chat if that's what you're looking for. Into the chat to see we've got a bunch of yeses. You can hear us, which is great. Everyone wants the good numbers. Loving that. All right. So as we get everyone in and get warmed up, that's what we're looking for. Hey, Wendy, can you send a message to Jason to say, use your regular email to get in here? Or maybe if I make you co-host, you can dig in and see if he's actually in the participant group as well. Because we need to find Jason. So great. Yes, that's what you want. I literally like working like a dog. No, you don't. Of course you don't, Mark. So we have an unhidden agenda with this particular webinar. And the unhidden agenda is, and we're very upfront about this, that we want to help 8 more firms right now. We've got capacity. Here we are coming to the end of the year in 2022. We've got capacity to help 8 firms right now. But it's not for everyone. we want to help you if you're more than $1 million in revenue. Why that, right? So we used to make it 500,000, and Paula will talk to that because she was 450,000 when we started 4 years ago. But and Paula's the exception. We see that because our belief is that if you can get to $1 million on your own, we can get to $1 million in profit. So you show us what you can do first, and then we'll take it from there. If you're 1 to 5 aligned partners, if you've got a partnership mismatch, as in one needs to go, then do that in your own time. Then start working with us later on. But 1 to 5 aligned partners, you're ambitious and you're coachable. Well, let's see if we can help. Let's see if we can actually help you, and let's meet. So we can do it a couple of ways. You can either scan the QR code now, or in the meeting in chat, I've put a meeting request. You can either do that, by a scan on your QR code or meeting chat. We'll do this towards the end as well, and catch up with Wendy and see if that's a match for you and for us. So with that in mind, with that warm up, let's meet our stars. Let's meet our stars of the show. You're about to meet Paula Field. I met Paula 4 and a bit years ago, June 2018. She will tell the story, but Paula from Allen, Texas, is an amazing lady you're about to meet, a very entrepreneurial family, and she'd been built a solid small business, but now we've got a decent sized business 4 years later. So you're about to meet Paula, right? You're about to meet Kevin Basset. Kevin, I met it's actually exactly 4 years ago, October 2018. Kevin had a very good business. He was producing about 700,000 profit already. And he now runs a much bigger business as a sole owner, both sole practitioners. And as soon as we find him, you're going to meet Jason Paar as well. So Jason Paar, Melis started a long time ago. They're a 2-partner firm, and Jason will tell the story. They're still a 2-partner firm, but they've grown the revenue now from 3.5 to $7.3 million. Jason's having computer issues at the office. Thank you, Andrea. I'm sure he'll come on when he's ready. And so you're about to meet Jason as well. So that stars of the show that you're going to interview, and maybe you're going to be one of our stars as well. If that's you, then if you're looking to be one of our stars, then scan an image and we'll get started. So let's get into this as Jason comes in later on. I've got 4 big questions for each of our panel, and you're going to ask questions around that, and so will I. And we're going to do round robin. So I'll ask the first question of each one. We'll unpack that answer, and then we'll go to question 2. We'll unpack that answer. And here is Jason. Good to see. And then we'll unpack that answer as well. And listen in, folks, because you've got the opportunity, of course, to ask any questions. Nothing, by the way, nothing is off limits. You can ask other than personal things. We don't want to go personal, right? Like how's your love life, or anything like that. So nothing's off limits as far as business questions. They're very open, very giving. So let's get into it. Question 1. Jason, good to see you, man. Glad you got your computer sorted out. Good. All right. Question 1. We all met about 4 years ago. Paula, I met you June 2018. I met Jason about the same time, and met Kevin October 18. And we've been working together ever since in a coaching capacity and now friendship capacity as well for the last 4 years, call it that. The question is, before we met, I want to know, and so does our audience, what did the firm look like before we met? So think of size of firm, style of firm, attitude, flat growth, high growth, no growth, type of clients, just a summary to give everyone a before type story. Paula, you're up, ladies before gentlemen. So give us a sense of what it looked like before we met. And welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. Before we met, I was working probably 3,000 hours in the business every year, growing it as much as I could any way I possibly could. So taking everybody that came through the front door, trying to figure out how I could do whatever needed to be done in order to help them. I had about between 3 and 5 employees, not full-time tax people for sure, definitely part-time. in the tax department. We're accounting and tax. We did a lot of tax returns, a lot of 1040s. I was probably working till about 8 or 9 at night. And so dinner with the family was pretty terrible. My daughter made a decision that she never wanted to be an accountant based on how many hours that I worked. And yeah, 469,000 were my annual sales, my annual revenue. And I was working like crazy to do that.
And Paula, how long prior to 18 had you started the firm? So how many years in were you with the firm?
So in 2010, I believe 2010 is when I got my CPA. I moved into the office probably 1 to 2 years, like out of my house, get the people out of my house and into an office. 1 to 2 years before we started. So I was growing because I had a shingle then, and but nothing like what it is today.
We'll get to what it is today soon. And from memory, the profit on 460 was about just over $100,000.
I think less. I think less.
Right.
Maybe more like 75, 79.
And sorry to drag up the past, Paula, but that's what it was.
Painful.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
I'm assuming back then as well, it was like a GP firm, any type of client, every industry.
Anybody. Everybody.
Do you
Come
remember?
on.
Do you remember what the split was between businesses and individuals, or was that just a different memory?
I think we were tax heavy.
Okay. All right. Okay. So this is a struggling sole practitioner story. It's a great story. We'll get to the great bit later on. All right, Kevin, you're up. Give us a sense of when we met. What was it like before that, as far as the firm?
Yeah. So interesting. So I had 2017, the year before we met, and the reason why we were searching for each other is I did have a little over 2 million, made 700,000 profit to owner. 2018 did slightly more, single digit growth, so little just under 2.1 million, but made less, made about 650,000. Margins had dropped to 32%. And I thought, I didn't see a way that they would not get worse the next year. And we had a huge workflow issue. And you and I have a slight debate on whether you found me or I found you. But at some point, I was listening to your videos as I was working out. You were talking about workflow and different solutions, which I know we'll talk about. And I was like, we didn't have a lead issue. We had, clients wanting to come on board. We just couldn't get the work out the door. And it had a huge workflow issue, and that was constraining our revenue and our profits.
Why do you think the profit dive, was that purely because you couldn't get the work out the door? Like you just couldn't bill it?
Yep. So the old velocity of money concept, the longer the work is staying in your door, you are collecting overhead on that job every single day.
Yeah.
And drives down margins. So pick up, put down, pick up, put down, pick up, put down, kills your margins. And as we'll talk about some of the things, that help. One thing we're not doing, of course, is time over and under budget, right? So I'll talk about that, I know, in your next question. But so I identified the main issue as workflow, and then of course started working with you, and we did other stuff, which we'll talk about. But yeah, so margin. So I made less than I had the year before.
Got it. And what was the head count on 2.1 back then, Kevin?
Yeah, so 17 head count, 14 FTE.
14 FTE. Right. And a similar question to Paula, what was the client base? Was it mainly businesses? What were we like for the client?
Yeah, so we've many years ago. So my background, I was with Ernst & Young and was a corporate tax person. So we had, except for the very early years, and I started in the house just like Paula did for 2 years, hung up the shingle. Then it would take, do anything they want. If they wanted me to wash their car, I'd wash their car. I don't care. Needed revenue, but we were at that point only business clients, with a few 1040s if they'd sold their business, right? We don't, but we were just under 400 clients which is actually more than we have today, which I know you'll get to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But-
Cool. Thank you very much. Good context.
Yep.
And sole owner, of course. Jason, over to you. So you missed maybe the first part of the question, Jason, which is, and I know you just sent me an email, which is great. Thank you very much on all the numbers. Give us a sense of the firm back before we met, years in business, because you were quite a number of years in business, and size, style, shape, that sort of thing.
So we started in 1992. I called us two guys and a computer, because that's pretty much what we were.
Yep.
Stole some clients from our former firm and off we went. So ramble on until 2018, and we had some good things going for us, which you confirmed, which we weren't sure that we were doing well, meaning we already had a niche. We specialize in auto repair shops. We'd always been doing monthly recurring revenue. So we at least had those hurdles kind of already crossed, but our pricing was bad. And I kept getting pushback from everyone that we can't raise prices. We had zero marketing. Our sole source of clients was a coaching company that my partner did classes for, an auto repair shop coaching company. And that was the main driver of getting new clients, but we were really handcuffed to them, and just afraid to venture out and do anything on our own because of that relationship. So that was a bad thing. The total team was about 20 team members, all working in the office. Two partners, sales were 3.5 million. Annual sales per client were about $9,000. We had 381 monthly clients. Our MRR was 145,000 a month. So average MRR per client was 380. We did about 1,800 tax returns that produced 1.5 million revenue, average per return 800. Net income was a little under 1.6. So we thought we were doing pretty well, but I just felt something was missing. We could be doing better. And then I got your email, and it was the right time to get that. It struck a chord, and 4 years later, here we are.
Here we are. Jason, you're right. When we had that meeting 4 years ago, you were already a really good firm, right? You had a lot of things going for you. And now we've completely changed the trajectory of the firm. But back then, you thought something was amiss. What did you think you were looking for? Because you already had a solid business, right? What were you looking for?
Maybe someone to confirm my suspicions, which you did. I had a lot of pushback from others here, that we were doing fine. We didn't need to make any more money. What are you talking about? Everything we do is perfect. Our processes were not nearly as good as they are now. We streamlined workflow.
Time out. We'll get into what we did.
Oh,
in a minute.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was just more looking for what was the sort of trigger. Now, we've got three very different firms here as far as size of starting mark, and they've been picked especially for not what they were, but for what they are now, right? Because if you look at Paula at 460 in revenue, we look at Kevin at 2.1 with 33% margin, and then Jason at 3.5 with 1.6 profit, completely different starting marks. But fast forward 4 years, so my second question is going to be, so give us a sense of what it looks like now, right? So revenue size, profit, people, attitude, client base, whatever's appropriate to you. We'll start with you. We'll go the other way around this time. Jason, we'll start with you. What does it look like today? And then our third question, which is going to be the meat and the potatoes. So what have you done to get the results? So Jason, take it away. What does it look like today?
Okay, still two partners, but I have a new partner. The other one got bought out. He's still here as an employee. So sales revenue is now 7.3 million. Annual sales per client is up to 13,000. Monthly clients are 576 compared to 381. MRR per month is 420,000, up from 145. Big thing, average MRR per client went from 380 4 years ago to 727 now. And that's all from getting more confidence from you to price our services correctly and get paid for everything that we're doing and not give things away. Tax revenue is 2.6 million on about the same amount of returns that we did 4 years ago. So average return went from 824 to 1300. And net income, which I'm projecting out, should be about 3.2 million this year. So our net is almost what our gross was 4 years ago.
Love it.
Yeah, and total team is up to 36. We have 2 marketing people now. We had 0 in 2018. We had 0 admin or client excellence coordinators. We now have 7. We had 0 people working overseas, and we now have 10.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just to clarify a couple of things. Monthly recurring revenue, clients on a fixed fee per month was 145,000 in 18. So you're already on that path. And certainly for those that are not on that path, it's an absolute game changer. Now you've got 419. So at the start of the month, we know we've got 5 million a year booked. And as I said, the average revenue per client per month is nearly doubled from 380 to 727. And that's awesome. So, but our client base, just so we understand, you said 381. Now it's 5, judging by this email you sent me today, is now 576. So Jason, with the change, the client is paying more per client. Has the size of the client changed?
No, they're all about the same. We try to keep it, no more than 3 owners, no more than 5 million in sales. Most of our repair shops are 2 million or less in sales, about 10 employees. So
Okay.
no, they're smaller firms.
And this is a I know the answer to this question, but I'm interested to hear your take on it. The annual sales per client, annual revenue per client has grown from 9 grand to 13 grand. So it's still not a huge dollar value per client.
No.
What do you do for them for 13 grand or do with them?
Review and fix their QuickBooks files every month. We produce certain management reports that are what KPP, what's the acronym?
KPIs?
KPIs. So because we have so many repair shop clients, we have a database that we created in Access that tells them where they stand relative to all the other clients and various important factors in their business. And plus we're experts in their industry, so we're able to charge more money. I think those are the most important things.
But what I'm interested in, Jason, is, there's a big push, and I've certainly been a proponent of this push in relation to advisory services. Now, you offer an automated benchmarking report to your shops every month, which is all hands off, as I understand, but you're not really offering advice or consulting wrapped around that, are you?
No, we try to stick to being accountants, pointing things out. And the reason is a lot of these repair shops already have a coaching company, like they have a Rob Nixon for repair shop owners. So we don't want to step on toes as far as that goes. It takes a lot more time on the partners, and we don't want to do that. So that's why we do not do that.
I love it. I love it. So
I don't really get involved much in anything on client work. I don't.
Yeah.
Really
So as a result of the leading question there, Jason, your time. and Hunt's time as well. How much client delivery work do you guys do?
I do almost nothing. Hunt does very little, honestly. He spends most of his day on sales calls. A couple of client calls. He might have a window through Calendly that's a couple hours for I think 3 days a week that he'll do client calls, but the rest is handled by the team.
Yeah. So just so we understand that, we've got a $7.3 million business with basically half profit, which is awesome. But and I just want to quantify this because I'm going to get the same question to Paula and to Kevin as well. Client time, if you could quantify, you said not much, but give us some hours, right? Your time spent on the tools with clients, what yours and Hunt's, what would it be, Jason, for the year?
Honest, kind of embarrassed to say maybe 10 hours a year for me.
So Chad's asked a question, how many billable hours does Jason put in a year? It's 10, right? So there you go.
I don't, yeah. I mean, I did my tax return. I did our corporation's tax return. I did one of my buddies' tax return. That's all I did the whole year.
What about Hunt, your other partner? What inclined hours?
His is a little higher because he's younger. He's probably maybe 20 hours a month of client work.
Okay, awesome. So
yeah.
240 thereabouts.
I mean, most of his time is sales, honestly. Yeah.
So what do you do with your time, Jason?
Work on the business. I do our own financials. I monitor the hours worked on clients, making sure we're not having scope creep, and I spent a lot of time this year doing fee raises, to be honest.
Yep.
So I think we went from 306,000 in January on our monthly fees, and I think it was 370 that we just billed out in November on about the same number of clients. So a lot of that was fee raises.
Love it. Thank you, Jason. Kevin, give us a sense, and we're getting a bank of questions, which we'll come back to, folks. Give us a sense, Kevin, on what it looks like today.
Sure. So we'll do about 3.2 million this year with 42% margin. Clients will be around 350, which is slightly less than when we started. However, what we did is we cut a bunch of non-profitable clients. After getting your program, you had us go through and analyze that. And the new clients we brought on are higher revenue, higher AHR, higher margin, and better clients. So that's where we're at. The team is only up 2. We have an overseas team member and business manager, and dropped one full-time, part-time, and added another one, a full-time client excellence coordinator, and we're going to add another client excellence coordinator for this tax season. So that's the difference there. So the headcount is similar, but a lot more throughput, revenue per FTE.
So Kevin, your 14 FTEs before, now you're 16. The 2 extras were business manager, and what was the other one?
Yep. Overseas and client excellence coordinator.
Okay.
And so half a chargeable FTE.
Got it. Okay. So 6 full-time equivalents. The client base about the same as far as numbers?
Yeah, slightly less, but far better revenue per client. Yep. And that was intentional, right? We cut some. We do client discontinuance every 2 years. We were due to do it the year we joined you, and we cut a bunch.
Yep. So with the client discontinuance, what percentage do you discontinue every year?
Yeah, so it depends. It was pretty big the year we joined you, because you gave us courage pills. But we, below a revenue and profit and margin threshold, it's probably a good 10% that year. It's not always like that. And we do it every 2 years on purpose because we give a client 2 years to get right. Sometimes it always doesn't work the first year. And
you give them like a warning letter.
Yeah, unless they're bad behavior, do something nasty or out of bounds to a team member, then they'll get fired immediately. And I usually do that call in person. It's not a letter. So
So 42% profit on 3.2 million. So what's that? 1.4 thereabouts?
Yeah, we made the cool thing is, so in 2020, I passed the $1 million personal income mark and did it in November. Last year I did it by October, and this year I passed $1 million by September 30th.
Love it.
Yep.
So if we keep going on that trend, we'll be
Yeah, keep it up, right?
keep it up. Exactly. Like just
Yep,
shave a
yep.
month off every time, right? Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Kevin, similar question to Jason on client base, size of client, type of client. How's that changed?
Sure. Yeah. So we've always been business, and then our niche, the way we get clients is I go out and speak at different business conferences, and it sounds like John, they do some meetings for some key alliances as well. And so that's how we get it. So we are not one single industry. We're about five. And if you were to narrow it to one, it's clients that, or two things. They either go to business conferences and or they're private equity. We do a lot of private equity work. So that's how we get our clients. We stay in that lane. Yep. And then we're nationwide client base, mostly US, a few cross, mostly USA, all states. Most of our clients are not in our home state.
Yeah, so similar to Jason, because I know Jason didn't mention this.
Right.
Jason's in every state of the country.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So
Jason, yep.
Most of your business, like you're in Raleigh, would be Zoom delivery, or what's the delivery?
Yeah, so fortunately for us, similar to Jason, is we were already, in the old days it was GoToMeeting, and then we switched to Zoom when it became the thing. And so we were already a Zoom based firm before COVID, and that was very fortunate, which is how 2020 the pandemic hit, yet we still crossed the $1 million, had huge growth.
Love it.
Yep.
Love it. Cool. All right. So that's the sense of you, Kevin. Paula, tell us what you look like these days.
Well, these days it's a lot different. We're a virtual firm, and you've teased me about how big my sign is in Allen, and we don't really rely on that anymore. We actually keep the door locked, which is quite crazy, but we did that through COVID, largely because Diane is pretty much the only person that works at the office now. Occasionally Sandra, our business manager, goes in, and occasionally I go in, but we're pretty much all working from home, remote, since COVID, and it's turned out to be great. We love it. There's 14 of us now. I have a tax manager where I never had a tax manager before. We've got what I consider a tax department and an accounting department. And so I've got an accounting manager and a business manager. We have two client coordinators that one is a client excellence coordinator. Another one is a client onboarding coordinator to help bring new clients on to our tools. We've gotten very good at our efficiency, being a very efficient firm. Using the technology has really catapulted us, I would say, into profitability. So profit margins are 50%. We crossed over to the 1 million last year, and super thrilled about that. I remember when I hit the 1 million in revenue, and you told me in next year it's going to be $1 million in profit, and I didn't quite make that the next year, because sometimes I dig my heels in and I didn't do some of the things that you told me to do when you told me to do them. But we made it this year, and so I'm just thrilled with that.
Paula, it's a tease, right? It's a tease. So okay, let's take this year's revenue and make it next year's profit, right?
Yeah. Well, it works, Rob.
I know. So I think we did 2.1, was it last year? 2.1 million?
2.1, yeah.
Yep. How has the client base changed today? So, when I visited your office, I did tease you about the sign. There's a massive Paula Field sign, right? In Texas. And now we've rebranded to Lucrum. What's that change all about?
The change is I'm niching with attorneys, and Lucrum is profit in Latin. And so A lot of the legal terminology is Latin driven. And so I thought it was cool. I'm productizing my Show Me the Profit program and trying to sell that to my client base. And it has changed quite a bit. When you increase prices on a tax return that you're only charging $250 historically, and you tell people that you're not doing work for less than $1,000 on a return anymore, you have a lot of people walk out the door. And I never fired anybody. I never fired any clients. I raised fees, and some stayed and some left. And so we've gotten more business centric, which I love, because that's what I want to work on anyway. But we're bringing on the niche, so it's exciting. It's fun.
Yeah, so we've changed from an in-person office-based firm,
Yeah.
And we're coming to see you in January. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the changes there are. Although no one goes there, so it might be just mothballs and cobwebs. Who knows, right?
A lot of computers.
A lot of computers. So now our virtual team. What's the split of stateside versus overseas team of the 14 people?
Oh, that's a good question. All of our stateside team members are client facing. We do have meetings with our offshore team members as well. So I think we have 8 offshore, and the rest is stateside, so 6.
And similar to Jason in the Philippines as well, because we had a few questions about where.
Oh yeah.
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 Okay. So 8 offshore, 6 onshore. The onshore team are client facing, so they're Zoom delivery meetings or whatever they're doing.
That's all we do. It's all. Occasionally I'll meet with a client, but they're the good ones and they're close. Unless I have to get on an airplane and go to Midland or something.
Got it. So how has your time changed, Paula? You were 3,000 hours personally. What is it now?
Yeah, so now it's amazing. I work 15 to 30 hours in the business, and I'm a fraud examiner also. So the niche works well with lawyers, but I've taken on more of that work and I love it, but we're also expanding more into that area. So we're going to have another fraud examiner on the team this year before the year is over, hopefully.
Oh, cool. I loved it this year during busy season. You took a 2-week trip to France, if I recall.
Yeah, I was gone over April 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a change, right? Dramatic change in you. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And the team, I never would have been able to do it without such a strong team. But they really don't need me. They really did not need me to be there to make sure that all the extensions got filed, or that it was seamless. They didn't miss me.
So we talk about 3 levels of progression in your accounting firm. And some of you listening are at level 1, some at 2, a couple maybe at 3. Level 1, where Paula definitely is a practitioner, right? You're a practitioner level. You're a practitioner practicing your craft, working the crazy hours that Paula was doing. That's level 1. Many of you listening may be like that. Level 2 is where you're running a business. And that business is providing for you. It is providing a good lifestyle. The hours have definitely come down for the owners, and you're running the business. But level 3, which is where, and all 3 of you at different levels, right? So Paula and Kevin definitely at level 2, and level 3 is where Jason's basically at, and that's where you're an investor in your own business. So as a result of that, the partner time comes down dramatically. To Jason, when you say 10 hours, when I say partner time, I'm talking partner delivery time, client on the tools time, right? And so level 3, we've got to get over the level. At level 1, as being a practitioner, you've got to realize where you're at. Level 2, we start running a better business, changing the way the business operates. Our time comes down, your time comes down. And level 3 is where it gets close to 0. You become an investor in your own business. So definitely Jason's at the nearly investor level. Kevin and Paula at the business owner level. So, but moving towards level 3, which is really cool. I love it. Love the progress. And it's been a journey.
Thank you, Rob.
It's been a journey. Yeah. Love the progress. And it's great to celebrate the progress as well. So let's get into the meat and potatoes. this is the what, okay, 4 years, if we look back the last 4 years, great results financially, great results for personal time. You know, Kevin, we did an interview a couple of years back. You were talking about generational wealth, great results for, you know, changing your lives, which is awesome. What did you do? Right. So what are the big projects you've implemented? And this will cause a lot of questions. We're going to spend the majority of our time, you know, the next sort of 45 minutes on this one. What have you actually implemented to create the change? So Kevin, we'll start with you. And this is a laundry list. Go into as much detail as you want, and this will spark questions. And then we'll go to Paul, and then we'll wrap up with Jason, and then we'll start to wrap the show up. So what have you done, Kevin?
My pleasure. A lot. Been busy, right? So as I mentioned before, it's important to know that I joined, started working with Rob because of workflow. That said, the first thing that had the most immediate impact was updating our pricing. And although we were not, in our group of 8 firms, we were probably better than most, it still had an incredible impact, right? To pop in margins quickly, because and for a lot of people, it's such a game changer. It's not even funny. So that was the first thing. And right, immediately you get, we went through our client list, look at, you had us measure an AHR, average hourly rate, and then I ran a margin per client. We cut some lower margin clients and added some higher margin and repriced everybody. And I went literally charge code by charge code. So that was the first thing. The second thing is I went charge code by charge code and looked at how to drive down time. And we started measuring time under budget. And I figured out what can we strip out on our delivery that gets the clients the great outcome, because accountants are geniuses at just creating work out of thin air and adding a bunch of steps that the clients don't care about, because we're accountants and we care about it, but they do not. And give them the one page with graphs and colors and all the other stuff they're not going to read anyways, so stop doing it. And so that drove margins up. Next, of course, was workflow. That's going to be a forever work in process, but we updated that, got workflow software, hired a client excellence coordinator. That's a total game changer. We'll continue to add CECs for the rest of our existence. Another big thing that took some courage pills is we started, our first meeting with you was at our office we met in October. A month later, you're in our office in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we got crap everywhere because we had gone paperless the year before. We were purging everything. And but that busy season of 2019, I did not install tax software on my computer. So now it became literally impossible for Kevin to ever do a tax return again, or to even go into it in the software. And I don't even do my own anymore. So that was a big deal, right? Because my identity when I started my firm was I was the corporate tax guy for Ernst & Young. So that really changed. It made it impossible for me to get sucked into something I shouldn't be doing, right? Because the question is, do we want to get paid as accountants or business owners? Big difference. So that was that. And then, of course, a bunch of technology changes. The group alone, the entire group of firms, constantly, what are the best technologies for what we're doing, workflow, et cetera. We updated our CRM. So a lot of that. I think that covers our main ones. And then I'm still in the program because there's always something. There's always something.
Okay, I want to dig into a couple. And just for everyone, including you, Jason, when you send a chat message, just have a look at, are you sent to everyone or hosts and panelists only? So Jason, you've been answering questions to hosts and panelists only, right? So
yep.
So good. Okay, Kevin, I recall a few years back, and this is a good example of what you mentioned, that accountants are good at filling their time and just padding out work, right? Yep. I recall for your CFO service, it was a margin of $500 an hour, if I recall right?
Yep, HR 500, exactly.
Yep. And I think I gave you a challenge, like a 90-day challenge. How do you get that to 1,000? How do you double the margin without doubling the price? And you came back and said, I've done it. So let's give an example of a fixed price, but doubling the margin by halving the time. What did you do to do that?
Yep, and it was even better than that. So the reason is we have this. I had this massive misconception that to deliver a good CFO meeting, which is our quarterly consulting with our clients, that we needed to do a whole bunch of work up front, bury them with, either paper or a super long PDF of stuff that no one understands except an accountant. In reality, we switched to more of a just-in-time. Hey, they're buying an hour of our time. What's the most impactful thing we can do? We'll have a one-page tool that we'll do during our meeting. So we got rid of the upfront time. We automated a few things, right, to make sure the scheduling and all that was that. And then the other issues, and so that right there cut our time in half, doubled our margin. What I didn't fully let you know about is because to do the upfront nonsense that they didn't care about, we needed stuff from the client up front, which they wouldn't do because they're business owners and they're busy. They're high quick starts. They're not accountants. And so number one, we couldn't do the upfront stuff that we shouldn't be doing anyway. And number two, it led to a lot of meeting cancellations, which is revenue gone. So we doubled our time on the meetings we actually had. If you add in the meetings that didn't take place, lost time, it's even better. So we stopped that whole upfront thing. We show up for the meeting. And we just changed our automatic alert to go out. Just make sure you can pull up your books during our meeting because they're on all whatever softwares. They're on QBO, Desktop, Sage, NetSuite, Workday. They're all over, and that was huge.
So what are the
that's just one charge code.
Yeah, no, I realize that, but it was a good example of let's not over-engineer the job, and the client's still happy, but you've reduced the time by 50% or more.
Yep. And they're even happier because they're not stressed out about, having to prepare for some meeting for some stuff they're not going to read. Yep.
Got it. So on that particular service, that charge code, which from memory represents about 500 grand worth of revenue.
Yeah, higher now, but yep.
It's higher now, but what's the margin on that work now?
Oh, it's so that one's way north of 50%, and and that's even after assigning a value for me. If you take out my value, it's like 90%. Right, if you don't put a cost to me because it's income to partner.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Got a couple of questions for you, Kevin, on the workflow. Let's just unpack the CEC role. So just for everyone's definition, this particular role I invented a long time ago and was called a client service assistant. That was the first title. The second title was client service coordinator. About 5 years ago, I heard the term client excellence coordinator, and now we're in the process of, we've had a better name title, which is client concierge. They're all doing a similar things, but it's the recognition of the title to the client. So Kevin, you can unpack this one because a lot of questions about it. What is the person? Where are they based? What are their qualifications? And what are they doing?
Sure. Okay, and in the interest of full disclosure, since I'm the slow learner on the call, we failed at our first, it failed spectacularly on our first CEC hire. First of all, for most of the firms that I've heard, ourselves included, they end up not being an accountant. And we had to mentally get past that. We're like, well, it'd be way better if they were. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. But a non-accountant, the one that we finally successfully hired that's stuck and that's a rock star, actually had a similar role at an insurance company. And so it was, and they were so busy and crazy that coming to a CPA firm was actually a vacation to them, which is very rare, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is their simple job. We narrowed it down. We were joking that we're going to change their business card to information, go-getter. Just like accountants are, not as good about as communication skills. Once they got the message from you that just keep your accountants doing accounting and everyone surrounding the accountants, that's our job, including myself, by the way, then life gets better. So they do all the communication. They're the chaser downer, right? That's another business card term we should use. Just go get it. And that's what they do. And they do not have to be an accountant. That said, they do need to kind of sit in on some meetings and get familiar with the terms so they don't call a K1 a Chi or something ridiculous. They got to kind of know what the stuff is, but that takes hours, not years, right?
Yep. Got it. And we'll unpack that as well. Tech, got a few questions for you, Kevin, because you mentioned tech. What software for scheduling, project management, and CRM have you implemented? Because you've taken all the software off your computer, which is awesome, right? So
The
you can't
tax,
do the
yes,
work.
that's correct. Yep.
Tax software. What tech are you using to improve the workflow?
Sure. So we went from nothing, right, and using a program called Act, which you used to use in the 90s called, and they wanted their software back. But for scheduling, we do use, I think, Calendly for invites to go out. But at the end of the day, we have a big shared Outlook that actually works. And then we use we implemented Carbon, which is a very good workflow software, but we ended up leaving it, and a lot of firms are still on it in the group and love it because it's very, very good workflow software. It's fantastic. But we ended up finding a software called TaxDome, which integrated our CRM. Our all emails are integrated and organized by client in TaxDome, which Carbon does too. It does our workflow, all our contact management, and our e-signature. So we did that to just get all of it in one place. And I do have that, right? I go on that and follow things.
Got it. Thank you.
Other folks are using separate contact management, and they use Carbon, and it's great.
So I got a question. Why haven't we heard from Wendy, Bob?
Oh, and Portal. I'm sorry. Portal's the other part of that. I'm sorry.
Portal as well. So Wendy's the co-host with me. She's helped me moderate the questions and send me messages. So Wendy is not an accountant and won't be interviewed today. Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And a shout out to Wendy, our client excellence coordinator. Loves Wendy, uses her a resource all the time, and they're buddies. So please keep Wendy.
Oh yeah, 100%. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. Do whatever you got to do, man.
Got it. So Caesar's asked a question. What do you use for billing and WIP? Kevin. So
we're still on QuickBooks Enterprise, and we use that. We all our time imports into there, and we bill from there. Yep.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, so keep the questions rolling, team. This is very much celebrating the success of these three firms, but also giving you some insights as to what they're doing differently. Paula, give us the laundry list. I know it's a big, long list, but what are the highlights as to what you've done differently?
Well, I've done just about everything differently. Where to start? Yeah. So we implemented Carbon too, with the push to try to be digital and no paper. We haven't quite made it completely to the cloud, but the whole intention was to go cloud totally. And so we are Carbon. Their workflow is amazing. We love it. We still tweak it. And so now, instead of being so client specific, we're working towards not being more generic in some of our client requests so that it's more streamlined. But we get better and better at it every year. And we've really seen a lot of improvements in our processes just by keeping working that software. We priced and we did an increase like immediately after coming on with you, and it changes everything. And we weren't really on a monthly recurring revenue for all of our work, and so we did that, and that getting all those contracts signed and all the client meetings was a whipping, but it was worth it because in the summer months we have I don't feel like the world is going to end and I'm going to have to put money into the business until the next tax season. It's just leveled everything out, which has been super, super helpful. We priced up front this last year, and we were able to get rid of some really rotten clients because of doing that, because they knew in advance how much we were going to charge. They just decided to go somewhere else. So that was great. And then the work expectation was there for the whole team on what we were doing for everybody else. So it freed up so much capacity now that we take on special projects during each month, and we're able to fill our capacity every month. I mean, we have lots of good extra work that we do for our clients, and we're more profitable because of it. I've focused on my brand and my niche and my website, and I don't know if that's like turning anything into monetarial yet, but I think that it will. I think it's good. I love it. We hired a whole bunch more people. We went offshore with in the Philippines, and I love my team over there. They're just as important to the firm as my team stateside. So they are amazing people. They're amazing accountants. They're super smart and very knowledgeable, and they handle the lion's share of the work. And God bless them, because they're fantastic. We've instituted in-team meeting rhythms. So we have a regular meeting schedule so that we communicate well. I think that's one of our strengths, is how well we communicate in the team. And it's funny, you don't get the knock on the door, by somebody, but it's we have a very scheduled system to our meetings, and we communicate very well because of it and the technology. I probably did more than that.
I think you did. Okay, I've got a few questions, and there's quite a few popping through on the chat as well. You mentioned pricing in the early stages of this meeting. You said from 250 to 1,000. If you could look at, and that was just for individual tax returns, of course, if you could look at like-for-like services 4 years later, what do you think the percentage increase might be across the board for like-for-like?
I think that our percentage increase was over 100% like for like.
Double.
For tax. And then for accounting, I would say at least 50% increase.
Yep.
In accounting work, yeah.
And that's been a gradual increase over the last few years.
Yeah, and now we're billing for everything. We may not have been billing for estimates. Let's just punch that into the tax software and fire it out. Now we're doing quarterly estimates. Now we've got the bandwidth from the team that we're doing quarterly projection estimates and billing for it, and having meetings and billing for it, including it in the pricing.
So audience, all the questions for Philippines and cybersecurity questions, we're going to get Jason to do a little session on that because they've been at it the longest. So we're going to park those ones for now, but come back to that. Paul, I've got some more questions for you.
Yeah.
Your time has come down dramatically, right? From 3,000 hours a year to now 15 hours, 15, 20 hours a week. Client delivery work. So call it 500 thereabouts for client work per year. That is a 6 times reduction. That is an enormous reduction in your personal time.
And I'm still turning gray.
Yes, sure. Aren't we all, right? Give us some highlights of what you've done to dramatically reduce your personal client time.
So you said if you have a who, you don't have a problem. And so I have a couple of who's. I've hired a tax manager, and he's doing all of the review work. I don't review. I used to spend all my weekends reviewing. I'd spend the week answering questions, helping the team. I'd start working at 5 p.m. when everybody went home and it was finally quiet and I could do some work. And I don't do that anymore. We're scheduled, so they get their questions answered. We use the technology to answer the questions. I don't even have to be in my email. I am in my email some, but I really don't have a requirement or a need to do that anymore. So I'm not on the tax software. I love the idea about not installing it on my computer. Guess what?
It's coming off. Delete.
Yes.
So,
Good.
Paul, so from what you've just explained, it's all about leverage, right? It's all about,
Mhm.
hiring that tax manager. You've hired Sandra as the business manager. So between the two of them, they've probably taken a lot of time off your plate. Often we get, oh, we can't afford to do that, right? We're a small firm. We're at $1 million. We're less than $1 million. We're around $1 million, whatever. You've gone and hired two high-level people. At
Mhm.
what point in time to get that leverage, right? At what
Yeah.
point in time did you just bite the bullet and do that? Because that's a costly exercise in labor. But what was the turning point, and when did you do it?
Yeah. Okay. Great question. For me, the turning point was when I had hit my million more in revenue a couple of years in a row, and I couldn't grow the business any longer because I was reviewing a tax return, and or a lot of them or all of them. And so a decision was made that if I had done what I was led to do through your coaching program, that I would have had the time to be able to do it. It's when you get the sales and you're disappointed. It's when the year is over and you go, I didn't grow at all this year. And a year wasted is what it felt like to me. Another year wasted, not getting further along. And so it was frustrating. It was the frustration that led me to change. And so I bit the bullet and did it.
Yeah, I remember that we had this sort of year in the abyss,
That's right.
Was it 19? It was 19. Yeah. Yeah. Or 20, one of the two.
It was 20.
20.
It was 20.
Yeah,
Nothing happened in 20. And then in 21, after I did that, and we increased, you keep increasing, right? So we increased our prices again. That's firm grew $1 million in a year. And I hired all my offshore help and I hired more than I needed at the time. And I was worried and afraid, but I didn't. It was very good because I was able to work on my business instead of in it.
And Paula, it's what you said before. It's that level of annoyance when it gets to a point where I have to change. And that's what I find in the accounting profession. There's a comfort level, of a reasonable income. You were not there, the other two were. A reasonable income. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. But then it comes a point, well, hang on a minute. I need to create some wealth here. I want to create a life. And that's when you start to change, which is what you've done, which is awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I have goals, I'm trying to accomplish them.
Yeah, we've got a bucket list. We've got to tick these things
Right.
off. All righty,
Right.
Jason, let's go to you. What have you done? What are the big highlights? And I'm going to ask you run through your list, but I've got a couple of big questions for you on marketing and offshoring, because they've been the big ones for growth. But give us a sense of what you've done differently, Jason.
Well, I guess before we started with you, I'd say we sort of had a business. It was a combination of business / practice, right? Since with being with you, the whole mindset is we run a business. That's it. And I always say my only one client is Paar, Melis, my firm. That's my client. Okay,
Yep.
That's what I work on. We worked a lot on getting more efficient, driving down the time, cutting out unnecessary steps and processes. When we started with you, we had one admin, which did nothing with the clients, right? So we had no CECs. And I remember when you brought up in one of the group meetings, you need to have CECs. And I thought, well, what the heck are they going to do? Why do we need that? That doesn't make any sense. And now we have 7 of them, but it's amazing because, in one of your, one of our board meetings, you did the thing where every like pick a tax return, it's 20 steps. Okay. But 15 out of those 20 steps can be done by an admin person, right? And So I also like to view it as if like my client base auto repair shops. Think about it. When you take your car in to get fixed, you don't talk to the mechanic. You talk to the service advisor, right? And the mechanic, he's not calling, customers to get the car in. He just works on the car. Car comes in, he fixes it, and he gets the next car. Okay. And then we're like, why are we so stupid? That the accountants are doing everything. That makes absolutely no sense. And it was a big, humongous help on the tax side. That was just fat, because a lot of time is taken up on just getting the documents from the client, and then delivering all the signature forms and getting payment and all that stuff. Oh my God. So we have CECs that do all of that stuff. And it's fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And I like to say I've successfully delegated myself out of everything, and except for what I really want to do.
Jason, I love the car servicing analogy, because that just happened to me 2 days ago.
Yeah,
I didn't meet the mechanic at all. Didn't speak to the mechanic at all. It was the front desk person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they don't know how to fix a car. They know the lingo, and they know how to order parts. They know how to get the stuff. Someone on the chat thing said, "What do CECs do?" And my response was, "Get stuff and deliver stuff." That's in a nutshell. That's it, right?
It's interesting, Jason, on this one, on my example from 2 days ago, and you're a car guy, I'm a car guy, and your clients are car people. I had a question when I picked the vehicle up about a follow-on of what was going on, right? And it was a technical mechanical question, right? And if you take the analogy of drop car in, service person looks after it as far as front desk, mechanic does what they do, then comes back. She actually said, "I'll come back to you tomorrow." And she did, which was yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And she said, "I spoke to the technicians and they said this." And I've gone, awesome. She didn't let the technicians call me because they're working on the tools. I love it was a really interesting example of workflow from a car experience.
Efficient shops, that's how they handle things. And we should do the same thing in our business completely.
Time under budget. Kevin mentioned this. I gave Kevin the example of his CFO service. From memory, I can't remember the exact numbers, but you guys were already measuring this, and I put a challenge out to you, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but from memory, it's like 2 hours and 45 minutes.
We were about 3 hours per month per client, and got it down to about 2 hours. It's crept up a little bit. Maybe we're at 2.25. But yeah, that was a big revelation right there. Yes.
But that 45 minutes, times nearly 600 clients per month is a ton of time.
That's a lot. Yes.
So what did you do? What did you do to reduce it by 45 minutes?
Well, I think Kevin mentioned it. Accountants are great at, well, no, we have to do this, and you have to do that, you have to do this. No, you don't. That's not necessary. Let's cut this out. It doesn't have to be perfect. Not all clients' books are going to be in perfect shape, because some are just a mess. And if the client's happy, we kind of let it be a mess. It's okay. I'm not going to obsess about it. I'm not. And so, that was a big revelation. I actually got pushback from our team. Like, what do you mean? I have to do this. I have to do that. Like, well, no, I don't want you to do that anymore. Let's not worry about that. So, but you have to monitor it, and you have to have a system where you can actually get that number each month. And I remember in our group, Rob, you cut out that time under budget because you said I was the only one that could figure it out. So I guess my system's okay.
It's an important number, but unfortunately the practice management systems and the workflow systems, it's too hard to work it out. But you had it nailed, and I must say, Jason, it's a bit easier if you've got regular work per client per month.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're all the same. They're absolutely, and that's a big thing. If you don't have a niche, you got to get one, because every client of ours is pretty much exactly the same. There's no, oh, how do I do this client's work? How do I do that client's work? They're all the same. And that's one reason that me and Hunt, we don't have to do hardly any client work because everybody knows what to do. That's all.
Love
It's
it.
great.
So let's talk marketing and growth. So you've grown the revenue. Often I've had pushback from firms of your size, like a $3.5 million firm. Oh, it's harder to grow when we're a bit bigger, right? But you've had consistent growth and we've doubled the revenue in the last few years. And just every month we get bigger and bigger and bigger. You've now got 2 full-time marketing people. What do they do? And what is the marketing program for Paar Melis?
I'm a little embarrassed. I don't really know. But I guess that's kind of a good thing because I don't really need to know. I know we send 40,000 email blasts out every week, similar to, we built it off of what you did, for accountants. Allison does all that. And what else? My partner Hunt is fabulous. He's a young guy. He's a whiz kid, and he's on webinars every week. He wrote a book. I think it's called My Perfect Shop or Your Perfect Shop. And he really started this marketing project going. My big claim to fame was I found Allison. She used to be my favorite bartender. Because I may go to bars sometimes. And actually, bars are a great place to find CECs. We've hired 4 of our CEC people are either former bartenders or servers because they're very hardworking, they can multitask, and they're very personable. So that's been a really big help for us. And what else did you ask me? I lost it.
There's been some distraction going on in the chat about the bars.
Yeah.
So Jason, marketing,
marketing.
webinars, we've got email databases, we've got I know you've got a Facebook group as well.
Facebook, yep.
Hunt's book, speak at other people's events. There's a big marketing push in Paar Melis.
Yes. Because like I said, when we started with you, our sole source of new business was through that coaching group, and we were handcuffed. And your advice to us was, well, you need to be like Switzerland. You need to stop that. And our goal was to someday get away from that. And so we went from 100% of our new business was from that coaching group to now it's less than 10%. It might be 5%. The rest come from everywhere. Like Hunt will say, oh, we got a new client. He said he'd seen 55 emails from us and he finally decided to call, right? It's all just timing, but you got to constantly do it, and you got to have things all over the place, everywhere. And the clients will say, well, I don't know. I think I got emails from you. I heard about you on this, you were on this podcast and blah, blah, blah. So you have to do everything. Absolutely.
Second big question, thank you, Jason, is the whole offshoring piece. You've got 10 people in the Philippines.
Yeah.
When did you start that process? Why did you start that process? And what are some highlight things that people need to be aware of, good and bad, in doing that?
We started with one probably in 2019 and had very poor results with this one gentleman because no one wanted to be the go-to US person to manage this person. And then I guess in late 2019, one of our team members said, I think I can really work with this guy and let me train him. And she had great results. And then she actually came to us and said, I think if you let me hire some more of these people from the Philippines, I can really head up this group and I can make a go of it. And if I do it, this is how much I want. And so we said, okay, let's give it a try. Because prior to TOA, we didn't offer any bookkeeping services. We tried to stay away from that. And then the KWB guys, another firm in our group, they were doing bookkeeping, and they said it was pretty good. So we hired 8 TOA people all at once, but we had one US person that was in charge of all of them. That was her department. And now we have, I guess, 85 bookkeeping clients at about 100 grand a month. So that's 1.2 million of revenue, you know, and we're still not anywhere near maxed out on capacity with our TOA team members. They take a lot of training and it takes a lot of patience, but it will work if you stick with it. And if you have one, you have to have a US person that's committed to working with these folks. That's what works the best. We have had trouble ever since the pandemic because where it used to be where everyone that worked for TOA would go to their main office in Manila and work at the office. Problem is, these people live 1 to 2 hours away in these little villages, and they would have to travel every day to get there, or they'd stay in shared housing in Manila, sometimes 10 people to an apartment. But with COVID, when that hit, they all work from home. And now none of them want to go back to the main TOA office. They want to continue working from home. So our beef now is, why am I paying $800 per month per TOA employee if TOA is really not doing anything for us? So I think our next move will be to go direct with our people, which will make them happier because they'll get a bigger piece of the pie, and then they can continue working from home.
So Jason, as we look at the next hire, you've got 10 people now offshore. Where would you hire them from? Would you hire them stateside?
Well,
or offshore?
to do what?
Well, let's say just regular bookkeeping, tax, regular accounting work.
Well, we are looking for another US person. We found that the TOA folks are much better at just doing the bookkeeping. They're not as great at being able to just go into a client's file and fix it per se. They're not good at picking things out. They kind of have to have a step-by-step process that they follow. We found that has worked much better. So, but if we get more bookkeeping clients, I'm going to hire more TOA people. Mm-hmm. And the way we've done that is we asked our current TOA people, hey, we're looking to hire more. Who would you recommend? Because they want to have people that they know and can trust that are working for the current team. But yeah, we do have ads out, and we're trying to get a US accountant and a US tax preparer. We don't have any tax preparers that are overseas.
Let's talk about the access that the Philippines team have. So good question from Jason. Does the Philippines team have full access to your tax software and client directory?
No, they primarily go into the QBO files, directly with Intuit. To get the bank feeds and have access to the banks, we have one dedicated computer here at our office that they remote into, and they then go out to the bank websites. And then we also have a CEC for them, whose primary job is to constantly fix the connections with the banks, because they're always changing the passwords and how you get in, and the dual authentication, everything like that. So, but no, the TOA people primarily just go into the QBO files, and we've absolutely no problem with security at all.
And Paula, what do you do for that piece as well, for the access?
Yeah, they remote into our servers at the office, and use the tax software that we have and our document management system and the QuickBooks Online. But we have tax preparers. This was our first year to have tax preparers offshore, and we disclosed and had to get signatures. The wording on what the IRS requires for that is very specific, and we made sure that all of our clients signed the disclosures before we prepared returns. We answered questions. I've had a team over in TOA for four years at least now, and it's not a secret. They're on my website. They send emails to my clients. I explain that my team is over there if it comes up. There's nobody that works at the office anymore, and except Diane, our client excellence coordinator, because we still do have some people that drop things by on with paper. But for the most part, I haven't had a problem. And if I have had two that have left for that reason. Two. That's it.
I promised you 4
Let 'em go.
questions. I've actually got 5 questions, so 2 to go, right? I did email the questions to Kevin, Paula, and Jason in advance. Question 1 was all about, what you look like. Question 2 was what you now look like. Question 3 was all about what have you done? And we could talk for hours about what you've done. Question 4 is I'm going to give you now, and then question 5 in about 5 minutes time. Next question. Where do you want to take this firm? I didn't ask you this one, right? So what is the next 5 years look like? What is the plan for it for you and your firm? So where are you taking this thing, Paula?
Wow. I would like to get to, I would like to compete with Jason and Kevin. I'm coming.
You do it, Paula. Come on.
But seriously, I want to be very niche specific. I am excited for the change and what's going to happen in the business. I am not going to turn a good paying attorney down. I am not going to turn a good paying engineer down. But I am going to go after a market, and I'm excited for that. I think that it can be a $5 million business in another 3 years.
Love it. Kevin, where are you taking this thing? And by the way, Paula, just remember, Paula, you did beat Jason last tertial in profit time index, right?
I did.
Right? So just remember
I do remember that.
Hey, she was on vacation for a month. That doesn't count.
That's right. She wasn't working.
Yeah.
Well,
but Paula does get the award for the fastest progress in the shortest period of time.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Kevin, where are you taking this business? What's the plan?
Well, it's a good question. So first of all, I don't know that I'll ever retire. That now it's like, how much legacy wealth can we do? And now that I'm not doing accounting, which accounting does kind of suck if we admit it. But now that I'm doing what I love, like, why stop and why give up the income? But we've grown 22 consecutive years, and we'll continue to grow. So the immediate business plan is, how to double what we're doing, but the first priority is continuing to drive down time, which we've done pretty well with. The one weakness that I still need to solve is I am the top mergers and acquisition person, and we do a lot of private equity. So fourth quarter of 2021, I went from working very little to working a lot. And so I still have to, there's always something to work on.
Got it.
But in the near term, double what we're doing.
Call it a 5, you to 6, thereabouts.
Yep.
Jason, what's the game plan look like? What's the future look like?
I just ran the number. I think we need to get up to 700 or 800 clients at about 15,000 a year per client. Okay. That'll get us above the 10 million mark. And in order to, so just so everyone knows, we add about probably 100 new clients per year, but then we'll have 40, 50 drop-offs per year. So, and some of the drop-off you want because they're pains in the butts and they're just jerks and you don't want them anyway. But I'd like to fix it so we have less drop-offs, or we just need to keep adding more, to, and instead of 5 a month as our goal, let's make it, our goal is going to be 10 new per month, which we can do because we have the systems in place to handle that. Yeah, but I don't like all the drop-offs that we get. So I guess that's my answer to your question. And also, let's keep getting paid for what we do, and we got to manage our scope creep better. Because like in our world, clients will add a new business or 2 new businesses, and we didn't change their fee because it just slipped through the cracks. So things like that. Got to get tighter on that.
Well, I've got one final question to go, but before I do, I want to give everyone the clues as to how these and many others have transformed their firms, because it is transformation. If you look at transforming your profit, everyone's done that here. Transforming your cash, different mechanisms to do that. Transforming your revenue, we've got serious growth here. Transforming your team, different work style, your clients, your lifestyle, your wealth ultimately, and yourself, right? And this is a great 3-firm story of transforming all of those. To wrap this up, and I've got a 5th question, as I said, it's all about 3 things. It's all about accountability, learning, and sharing. So accountability to each other and other firms, learning from everyone around, and sharing successes. Now, what happens is with content, right? And today's content, books we put out of content, tools of content, you get a bit of a burst and then it fizzles out, right? The difference here is continuous coaching and tools and support to transform the difference. That's the big difference here. So from today, before I ask my final question, you've got a choice. You can do nothing. Life's sweet. I'm okay. We'll just keep doing what we're doing. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're totally happy. You can do a little on your own. We offer a lot of free resources, a lot of tools, there's a lot of content out there. Go at your own and you'll get some result for sure. Or we would like to help you and transform you with coaching, how-to tools, support process, and get you to a point where these 3 firms are. So that's what we'd like to do with you. My final question, right? My final question, and then we'll wrap. We are on time for wrap on the half hour. Is, and this is for all 3 of you, we've got firms here at all different levels, right? And you've seen some of the chat messages, all different levels. For a firm that wants to change, right, and transform what they're doing and make an awesome firm, what recommendations would you give as far as what they should do and how to go about it? Jason.
Well, we've done everything you suggested, to be quite honest. The only thing we haven't done, I haven't wrapped the tax billing into the monthly charges. I don't believe in that. Anyway, that's the only thing that I've disagreed with you on. Everything else you've said to do, we blindly done it. Even though we had questions about it, it's hard. Yes, it's very hard. But if you want to change and you want to get better and keep going further, and if you're not afraid to implement, the other thing, Rob, that you didn't mention is on the quarterly meetings we have, it's not just you, it's the other firms in the group. We all feed off of each other. And you get so many ideas because they're all successful firms that really want to continue to be successful. And we get so many great ideas just by, chatting amongst ourselves.
Yeah, that's the sharing piece. Cool, got it. Kevin, your recommendations to others listening in.
Yep, I do. So hang with me a second. So number one, I completely agree with Jason, right? Us accountants, we often waste a heck of a lot of time and energy just questioning great wisdom. So don't do that. Follow what you can. Although like him, same thing. We kept tax separate, but from the billings. But if you join the program, and get help, you need to carve out time to actually implement, and that's into two buckets. There are some things that yes, the partners will have to do, but also be very aware that there are many things that the partner shouldn't do and probably aren't the best person anyway, that you need to delegate to people, to team members. And you need to carve out time for the partners, and you need to carve out time on your team member schedules if you've delegated to them, right? So that if you don't carve out the time, it won't happen. Because we are, the beauty of a professional service firm, especially CPA firms, is we are always busy and we can fill the time with something.
Yeah, sure.
So carving out time and being intentional. The other thing, you had some good ideas on making sure we incent the team members. Hey, what's in it for them? Part of it is us leading and beating the drum and explaining why it's great and really selling it, right? There's 3 sales, right? Getting the right team members, getting them to do what you want to do. And our third sale is actually bringing in clients. And we give them bonuses with money, and we give them time off. If they implement this, they're going to free up time for everybody. Give them paid days off. They love it. And they love money, right? Both. So that's my advice.
Thank you, Kevin. Paula.
One final thing.
Right?
Yeah, one other thing. And this is not done in 1 year. I think your program's set up with a 1-year commitment, but you notice the 3 of us that are on the panel here that have blown past $1 million, we're all in for 4 years. And why are we still here? We're all making more than $1 million because there's always something. Yeah. Now I want to make $2 million a year, right? So there's always something. That's the final piece. That's important.
Yeah, I don't want
those that drop out after 1 year, they're leaving so much money on the table. And the final thing is, don't wait. Every month you wait, you're losing money. It's just a fact.
Yep.
Love it. Minimum commitment, by the way, is 18 months, but it was 1 year. It's now 1.8. We should make a minimum commitment 3 years, because that's when all the change happens. Paula, what about you? Recommendations?
Of course. Well, the first one is, if you think that this is something that you want, gosh, it was something that exactly what I needed and what I wanted. So I was so thrilled that Rob has the program. I would say big plug for Rob, right, and his program, and Wendy, because they do amazing things. And then after, if you do that, do everything he tells you to do, because I have, just like Jason, blindly followed Rob's lead and dragged my feet on a few things when I shouldn't have. I would have been here faster. I operate as quickly as I can, and I should have operated a little quicker in a couple of areas. So retrospectively, I did drag my feet. I have a tendency to do that, and there's like, I can name three specific times that he's told me to do something more than once. And when I finally did it, when it finally happens, I see great big change. So I was going to quit when I hit my $1 million. That was going to be my goal. When you get your $1 million, you can quit. But I can't. Like Kevin said, there's still more to do. There's still more that I need from the program, that I need from Rob and Wendy, and the business needs it too, because it's successful and operating successfully because of the program.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank
you.
And for me, I need a quarterly kick in the butt.
Yes.
No, you really do. You get, one more thing, famous quote, I believe John Madden, the great football coach, used to say, don't worry about if the horse is blind, just load the wagon, right? Don't worry. And I say that all the time about a lot of things. People overthink, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? Don't worry about it. Load the wagon.
Yeah. So Jason, often we have to say, look, trust us now, believe us later.
Yeah.
Same thing. All right, let's bring this baby home. Final wrap up, and then we'll say thank you. As I said at the start, Unhindered Agenda, we've got capacity to help 8 firms right now. If you are more than $1 million in revenue right now for this year, 1 to 5 aligned partners, ambitious and coachable, because you do need to implement, then let's meet, let's have a chat, and let's see if that's for you. You can either scan the QR code, or I'm about to put the meeting details in the chat as well. And let's see, but seriously, don't book a meeting with us unless you're committed to do something now, because we've only got capacity to manage and handle a few. And get serious about this, because as Kevin said, every month you waste is you're losing money on the table, but it's more than the money, it's the time as well. So our panel, awesome panel, Kevin, Paula, and Jason, thank you so much. You guys are amazing. You're always amazing every time we catch up. And you're right, Sandra Michaels, it is addictive. I saw your chat message there. We're just addicted to success, and we just keep going. Who knows how far we can go, but at least double sounds it. And Jason, 10 mils next for you. Paula, 5s for you. Kevin, 6 for you. So guys, thank you so much. We wrap with that. Looking forward to our next encounter. We'll talk with you guys separately, and looking forward to hearing of your success as far as the people listening as well. All the best. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
Life will never